According to Professor Eleanor Whitmore, the highest level of respect is never demanded, and it is never explained. It is earned quietly, through behavior that speaks long before words are ever used. Most people believe respect comes from speaking confidently, proving intelligence, or showing authority through conversation. They try to explain themselves, justify their actions, and convince others of their value. But this approach creates the opposite effect, because the more you try to prove your worth, the more it signals that you are unsure of it. True respect does not come from effort to impress. It comes from control over how you present yourself without needing validation. The moment you enter any environment, people begin observing you. Not your words, but your behavior, your posture, your timing, your reactions, and your level of awareness silently communicate who you are. Before you even speak, people have already formed an impression, and that impression determines how they treat you. The first behavior that earns respect without saying anything is controlled presence. Most individuals move with unnecessary urgency. Their actions are rushed, their movements feel scattered, and their body language shows a lack of awareness. This creates instability, because when your presence feels restless, it signals that you are not in control of yourself. But those who move with calm intention create a completely different perception. Their movements are steady. Their posture is balanced. Their energy feels grounded. They do not rush to react, and they do not try to dominate attention. Instead, they remain composed. This calm presence signals confidence without effort, and confidence without effort is always respected. The second behavior is emotional restraint. Emotions are natural, but uncontrolled emotional expression reduces perceived strength. When someone reacts instantly, shows frustration, or becomes defensive, it reveals that their internal state is easily influenced. This creates weakness in perception. But those who practice emotional restraint operate differently. They do not suppress emotions, but they do not display them impulsively either. They pause, they process internally, they choose how to respond instead of reacting automatically. This creates control, because when your emotions are not visible, they cannot be used against you. And when others cannot influence your emotional state easily, they begin to respect your stability. The third behavior is intentional silence. Silence is often misunderstood as a lack of confidence, but in reality, it is a sign of awareness. Most individuals feel uncomfortable in silence. They try to fill every gap with words, even when those words have little value. This reduces impact, because when you speak too often, your words lose importance. But those who understand silence use it with intention. They do not speak unnecessarily. They allow pauses to exist. They listen carefully before responding. This creates depth, because when you finally speak, people pay attention. Your words carry weight because they are not constant. Silence becomes a form of communication, and that communication creates influence. The fourth behavior is independence from validation. Many individuals depend on external approval to feel confident. They look for agreement, reactions, and recognition to confirm their worth. This dependence reduces respect, because when your confidence relies on others, it becomes unstable. But those who are independent behave differently. They do not seek approval. They do not adjust themselves to please everyone. They remain consistent in their behavior. This creates internal confidence, because when your behavior is not controlled by others' opinions, it becomes steady, and steady behavior creates trust. The deeper truth is this: respect is not built through words or explanations. It is built through consistent behavior that reflects control, awareness, and independence. Most of what people judge about you happens silently, and most of what earns respect is never spoken. That is why those who master their behavior do not need to demand respect. They naturally receive it. Observe carefully. People reveal more than they say. And once these behaviors become consistent, something subtle begins to change. You no longer need to prove anything, yet people begin to treat you with more consideration. Because when your actions remain controlled, your presence becomes difficult to ignore. At this stage, respect is no longer something you try to gain. It becomes something others start to give. The fifth behavior that earns respect silently is disciplined attention. Most individuals allow their focus to be controlled by distractions. They check every notification, respond instantly to every message, and shift their attention constantly without realizing it. This creates a scattered presence, because when your attention is easily pulled in different directions, it signals a lack of discipline. But those who control their attention operate differently. They decide where their focus goes. They do not react to every interruption. They remain engaged in what truly matters. This creates depth, because focused attention signals clarity of mind, and clarity of mind creates strength in perception. People begin to notice that your attention is not easily available, and when something is not easily available, it becomes more valuable. The sixth behavior is controlled reactions to disrespect. Disrespect is often subtle. It appears in tone, timing, or small dismissive actions. Most individuals react immediately when they sense it. They try to defend themselves, correct the situation, or regain control through words. But this reaction often reduces their position, because reacting impulsively shows emotional dependence. But those who maintain control behave differently. They do not react instantly. They assess the situation before responding. Sometimes they address it calmly, other times they choose silence. This selective response creates power, because when you do not react to every trigger, you show that your behavior is not controlled by others. And when your behavior is not controlled by others, your position becomes stronger. The seventh behavior is patience in timing. Timing is rarely discussed, but it plays a critical role in perception. Most individuals rush their responses. They speak quickly, decide quickly, and act without considering the right moment. This reduces impact, because rushed actions often appear reactive. But those who understand timing behave differently. They wait, they observe, they respond when the moment is right. This creates precision, because well-timed actions feel intentional, and intentional behavior signals awareness. People begin to see that you are not driven by urgency, you are guided by control. This changes how your actions are perceived, because now every response feels deliberate. The eighth behavior is calm body language. Words are only a small part of communication. Body language reveals far more. Most individuals show tension through their posture, their movements, and their expressions. They shift frequently, avoid stillness, and display nervous energy. This creates instability. But those who maintain calm body language send a different message. Their posture remains steady. Their movements are controlled. Their expressions are composed. This creates balance, because when your physical presence is stable, it reflects internal control, and internal control is always respected. People begin to feel that you are grounded, and grounded individuals are naturally trusted. The deeper truth is this: respect is not created through one action.
It is built through a combination of behaviors that remain consistent over time. Every small action adds to your overall perception. Every moment of control increases your presence. And every moment of awareness strengthens your position. When these behaviors align, you no longer need to seek respect because your presence begins to communicate it automatically without needing to say anything.
And when these behaviors are practiced consistently, a final transformation begins to take place. You stop trying to gain respect, and instead, you become someone who naturally holds it. Because at this level, your presence starts influencing the environment around you without effort. People begin to adjust their tone, their behavior, and even their attitude when they interact with you. Not because you demanded anything, but because your actions established a standard. This leads to the 9th behavior, which is emotional independence. Most individuals are affected by external opinions more than they realize. A single negative comment can change their mood, and a small amount of criticism can influence their confidence. This creates instability, because when your internal state depends on external input, it becomes unpredictable. But those who develop emotional independence behave differently. They listen, but they are not easily shaken. They consider feedback, but they do not lose control. They remain centered regardless of what happens around them. This creates inner strength, because when your emotions are stable, your behavior becomes consistent, and consistent behavior builds trust. People begin to recognize that you are not easily influenced, and when influence becomes difficult, respect increases naturally. The 10th behavior is composure in moments of success. Success often changes behavior. Many individuals become louder, more expressive, or overly confident when things go well. They try to highlight their achievements and seek recognition. But this reduces long-term respect, because when behavior changes based on success, it signals a lack of balance. But those who remain composed during success operate differently. They do not exaggerate their achievements. They do not seek attention for their progress. They stay grounded. This creates maturity, because remaining stable in both success and difficulty shows control over self, not just situations. People begin to see that your behavior is not influenced by outcomes. It is guided by discipline, and discipline creates lasting respect. The 11th behavior is comfort with being unnoticed. Attention is something most individuals chase constantly. They want to be seen, acknowledged, and recognized in every situation. This creates dependency, because when you rely on attention, your behavior becomes influenced by it. But those who are comfortable without attention create a different perception. They do not try to stand out unnecessarily. They do not seek validation through visibility. They remain consistent, whether they are noticed or not. This creates independence, because when you do not need attention, you gain control over it. People begin to realize that your value is not dependent on recognition. It is based on how you carry yourself, and that realization increases respect. The 12th and final